And I think about your father and his successes and challenges, founding member of the Fiesta Bowl, but it also wasn't easy, right? I mean,
I think just life's not easy, and we still live in a society that race relations still have some challenges. But I've just remained hopeful. Part of the reason why I remain so hopeful is because of our young people. I get a chance to spend a lot of time with our student athletes. We were just on a trip to Selma, Alabama, where we had 100 individuals from our Big Ten Conference goal to visit. But I'm so positive about the energy of our student athletes. They're smart, they're bright, they're tough, they're wise, they have vision, they work hard, they have empathy, they're passionate, they're leaders. And so I'm just so encouraged about what the future holds for not only the Big Ten, but for college athletics and our country, is because of the leadership that we have from a collegiate standpoint.
I would love to know just a smidge, about, because I think it's a healthy conversation, in the middle of all the social unrest the last few years here in the United States. And we're talking about, social justice in general. One of the first things you did was create the Big Ten Equality Coalition. And for those who are listening, unfamiliar with what Kevin just shared about the coalition recently hosting that trip to Selma and Montgomery down in Alabama, you took 100 Big Ten student athletes down there. Can you tell me why and what comes from that?
One of the reasons why we call it the Big Life Series is we want to create an environment outside of sports and even academics that we can help our student athletes become spectacular people and expose them to things that maybe they haven't had an opportunity to be exposed to. Probably right when I started, we had to deal with COVID, then we had the George Floyd murder. I wrote a letter, an open letter, and was told that I think the Library of Congress actually picked up the letter and then have it in their archives. But it was during that time that I started thinking, is that what as a conference could we do to even greater expose our student athletes to another educational opportunity? They learn so much on a daily basis in sports, competing, practicing, being disciplined, working hard, all those different things. And then you add on top of that the incredible opportunity that they earn every day to go to class and learn and graduate and prepare for life. But I thought back to when I was a kid in Phoenix, as you alluded to, and the days that I really loved were, the weeks that we had field trips. Those are things that really bring the educational experience in the classroom to life. Even simple days, there were times that our teacher would go out and say, we're going to sit on the grass and study the sky. And, we would learn about clouds, but then you go out and actually look up in the sky. So that was really where the idea came from. And I will tell you that still to this day, even it's been a couple of weeks, I'm emotional every single day thinking about it, because to see our student athletes really embrace this trip, the preparation work that they went into it for the trip. And then we took the bus ride from Montgomery to Selma. It's 54 miles. And for them, my challenge to them was, one, what would you walk 54 miles for? And two, it took them 5 days. They weren't on a bus like us, right. And they weren't walking along the highway. It was against opposition. And all it was to get an opportunity to be able to vote because of some issues with the voting construct in Selma. So, we as a people, are we committed to really make this country a better place? So it was powerful then to go through some of the museums and go to the Equal Justice Initiative museum, and then Brian Stevenson agreed to come and speak with us. And so it was truly a magical opportunity that is life-changing. We're going to make a long-term commitment to go back to Selma Montgomery, start hopefully building some Habitat for Humanity homes and playgrounds and engage the schools there. And I didn't even notice a drugstore or a grocery store. And there's so many things that we can do. And I just want to make sure we lean into Selma Montgomery. And then eventually we'll go visit the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. and African Museum of History. There's so many places around our country, from New York to LA, that our students can benefit from an out of the classroom learning experience.
As a woman of color, a CEO of a professional sports team here in the United States, it's something that was incredibly rare until recently. And it feels like there's change. It feels like we're in a moment of change. You're seeing a lot of women who've been very patient and they've paid their dues and they're sitting there just one step below that, getting that opportunity for the top seat Do you see this progress? I mean, I'd love to have your perspective. Do you see that progress, and how do you feel about what's happening?
Yeah, I think there is definite and absolute progress. I'm a living example of that for certain. And as are people that I'm following from afar, or even friends that are near, in aggregate, we have seen more women and more women of color in leadership roles, in C-suite positions, taking ownership stakes in professional sports teams, head coaching jobs, athlete representation, like in every single one of those buckets, within sports. I can tell you a woman and or a woman of color over the last 3 or 4 years who has received an opportunity. And I think it's great progress. I think we have to continue in this trajectory. I think, there's no such thing as becoming complacent. Diversity and inclusion is real, and it only improves whatever the industry is where you're demonstrating that you can be diverse. Like, you're actually not getting the most out of everyone if everyone looks the same and everyone comes from the same cookie cutter background. So the fact that we talk about it so much more now, I think is the most important piece of it, though. There was a time where, it was almost unspoken, and it was just, I'm not getting an opportunity and I'm hitting my head on a wall, was sort of the sentiment. And I think because now, organizations, companies, governing bodies, like, people are really speaking out and saying, like, we can't continue this way. That's important progress even in itself.
I don't disagree. Our actions quickly follow our words. Well, are you satisfied with that progress? If you were to grade us as an industry, would you say on the right trajectory or needs more?
I would say on the right trajectory and needs more. Like I said, I mean, there can't be a moment of complacency. I think about this, and I mentioned, having the conversation, and in some cases it's a tough conversation, but the more normalized leaders are in being intentional about seeking out top talent from diverse populations, then we will have succeeded. When it's normalized and we're not drawing so much attention to it because it's happenstance, then we've made it. And, I don't think we've made it yet, but I do think there's light here. There's light at the end of the tunnel because I've witnessed it, even in our own organization, real intentional policies, real intentional encouragement from leadership about what our staff, what our employee population looks like. That's part of the journey. I am hopeful that it will continue, and one day we'll get there.
In a meeting recently, you said you're looking for ways to connect AB to the direction in which the world is moving, I believe it was, as it pertains to diversity, inclusion. Can you explain that more? What will Anheuser-Busch be doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think like all companies, right, the last year in particular has been a time when we've all recognized that there is an awakening that's necessary in the business world, and that companies like ours have a role to play in creating change in society. And so we take that very seriously, right? And, our brands touch millions of people in America every day. And so from everything to educating our teams to be thoughtful about the questions they're asking in production. So are you considering a diverse slate of directors when you're bringing me director recommendations? Are you considering production companies that are owned and operated by diverse folks? Are you being thoughtful in casting that you are, reflecting the consumers that we want to see? How can we help our partners, participate in conversations around all variety of equitable issues? What does our own team look like, right? We're just trying to be thoughtful and aware, both in terms of how we impact the world outside of our office, but then also internally. I think that there is, tons of research that suggests that diverse teams perform better, right? And so we are a mature company in a mature industry and the most advanced market in the world. And so there's not a lot of low-hanging fruit out there for us. And so we really need people and situations to help us, think outside the box. And so as an organization, we're learning to really embrace inclusivity in all its forms, which is exciting. It's an exciting time, as a woman and a person of color. It's an exciting time to be in the business world and feel like change is really coming.